Test, test. Owen, can you hear me? Probably. We'll see. Second test, test, test.
It is 3:30, April 14th, 2025. I'm going to call the Personnel and Compensation Committee meeting to order. If you'd please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices, and please rise for the pledge of the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our IT Commissioner, Mr. Glenn Markey, for a few remarks about our system here today.
Okay, hi, everyone. I'm the CIO for Orange County, Glenn Markey. It's nice to see everybody again. Okay, so we are working on improving our services, our live stream services, and we're including a backup for redundancy. So it's important that if we have any failures on any live stream meetings, that we have a backup. And our backup, we're doing a test. That's why you see the camera here. The backup is going to be, it's Facebook Live, and it goes to the Orange County Facebook page. And it's only going to get saved if we need it. If the live stream works, it automatically gets stored on YouTube. We're good to go. So this is strictly as redundancy backup. That's all. So we've had several instances where we had issues with the live stream and we had no backup. So this is strictly a backup solution to add resiliency to our meetings. Any questions on live stream and backup? Yes, sir.
So is that just gonna show the back of the chairman's head?
Yeah, it's showing the screen, okay, in the back of, yeah, because there's no good place to put it unless you have a better, we're open for ideas. Our concerns are in the back of the room. You can't hear. It's gonna pick up chatter. It's gonna pick up all the chatter. You guys chatting back there. Okay, you guys are having conversations. It's gonna pick up all the chatter. You don't want to be on the chatter. Okay, this is right close to the chair and where the speaking is going on. Now, we can move it if you have a
So
more
that
optimal.
starts when the meeting starts, or you're gonna have it in here 24/7?
No, it's only when the meeting starts. We started it when the chair started the meeting.
Okay.
Yep, and then we will turn it off. And if you have any IT issues during something blanks out or the screen blanks out, whatever, I have a whole IT teams in the next room, in the legislature, ready to respond. Okay?
Thank you for the stopgap.
You got it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, did you want me to turn around or?
Oh, you look better.
Okay. I was waiting for you to finish that.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Okay. Kelly, roll call.
Eyes in the back of your head.
Ed,
Here.
Oh,
Benelli, Luhan,
Present.
Menuda,
here.
O'Donnell,
Here.
Sierra,
Thursday.
Here.
Stiganga. Hi. Sassy.
Here.
Seven present.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, we have a pretty full agenda here, so let me get started. First up is Lacey Trimble, our Commissioner of Social Services and Mental Health. Lacey here? No, I see you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
All right, we have
Definitely
a request to reclassify a senior account clerk grade 7 to associate account clerk 1 grade 9. Funds to come from existing budget. Legislative request number 095. Can I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Okay. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this position is currently associated with our Adult Protective Services Division. And it is an integral position to the work that they do. Currently, the commissioner is appointed Article 81 guardian of approximately 80 individuals. And we also have appointments from the Social Security Administration to manage other adult protective consumers' benefits from Social Security Administration. So the work there, this position, they're ensuring that the checks and balances are kept in place. There's a lot of interaction with lending institutions, sometimes with family members, sometimes with other like property management, just to ensure that bills are being paid and that there are no errors. And they work very closely with our accounting division when issuing and requesting checks and payments. So over the course of time, I can tell you that prior to moving to my current position, I did oversee adult protective services. And that's 10 years ago. And at that time, we had about half the caseload we have today. And it's going to continue to grow. So rightfully so, the description in Ms. Cross's memo that's attached to this is really citing that the scope of the work no longer it's above what this current position is supposed to be doing.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, you too.
Next up is Stephen Knob, our Director of Employment and Training. Steve, come on up. Good afternoon. Please note legislator Pat Jones is with us today as well. Good afternoon, Mr. Knob. How are you?
Hi, well, good. How are we doing?
Good, good. We have a request to reallocate Assistant Director of Employment and Training position from grade 15 to grade 17. The change from grade 15 to grade 17 represents a difference of $6,124.77 annually. Upon the incumbent of the supervisor of employee services being promoted, the former position will remain but become unfunded. Okay, and this is all federal money anyway, isn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Currently, the supervisor of employment, you need a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Got it?
Okay.
That's done. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Currently, the supervisor of employment service, is, Christina Patzlos. She's with our department for well over 30 years. Going back probably prior to me being the director, which is quite a while ago. We have a director, we actually had 4 grade 15s, in our department. As it stands now, through retirements and different things, it's just me, the director, and just her. So, we're kind of, pulling everything along here. We just recently got a fiscal tech, filled that position in the last year or so. So we're trying to kind of rebuild the department, if you will. And Christina does above and beyond grade 15 work, and the assistant director was always in there as a grade 15, but working through the HR department and doing the hate questionnaire and things like that, it was determined that it should now be a 17.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. Thank you, sir. Have a great afternoon.
All right, you too. Take care.
Okay, next up is Langdon Chapman, our Commissioner of HR. Mr. Chapman, come on up. We have a request to create temporary positions consistent with civil service law, section 64, to enable succession planning and the employing of individuals temporarily. The title and grade of such position would be title of the position being transitioned to or from with the designation temporary or trainee thereafter. This is legislative request number 103. Can I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Good job. Okay, Commissioner, floor is yours.
Thank you. So as we continue to try to be better strategic partners for our partner departments here across the county and also across not only our county organizations, but municipalities, we try to find ways to use the civil service law to our advantage for recruitment and retention purposes. And there's 2 basic scenarios that this is gonna be applicable to. One, some senior member of our staff is leaving and they're training their successor. Oftentimes we will enter into contracts with these people. As you know, entering into contracts can be a time-consuming process, and some of our employees don't want to have gone from 30-year county employees to contractors. They have to supply insurance, they're gonna get paid on a 1099, and there's some challenges. I saw that when my own deputy commissioner retired. We had a position in my office that was vacant. We were able to put her in there on a very temporary basis to help with the transition. But that was lucky because we literally had a vacant spot that she was willing to work for that salary. So we're trying here to create the opportunity for anybody who doesn't have a vacant position to simply put somebody on a temporary basis, typically 90 days, but it could be up to 6 months, to help their successor transition out, or in, I should say. So you're gonna have the temporary person who's leaving service. They're gonna be temporary. On the flip side, you could have somebody coming at the lower end of the spectrum who maybe doesn't quite have the qualifications yet, and maybe there's not a vacancy yet. So you're gonna call them a trainee, and you're gonna train them for 3 to 6 months to get the qualifications and learn the job they need on a very temporary basis, not a permanent traineeship or your traditional 1-year traineeship, where they could get the training they need to take over that job. So it's just a way to innovate and be a little better strategic partner, we think, for the departments across the county.
Commissioner, you and I have had some good conversations. I mean, there's so many vacancies throughout the county, and, when I'm, fact finding or making phone calls for constituents, it often comes up that, well, we're short-staffed, we don't, So you and I have been talking about that, and this is, in a sense, like Steve Nob was just here. There's got to be some kind of succession. There's got to be somebody that's going to pick up the torch once somebody leaves. When you leave, when other commissioners, they leave, like, okay, who's next? So right now, the system is kind of,
There doesn't create a real clear path. So, hypothetically, when I leave, whether it's in 3 years or 9 years, you've got somebody who could easily take over my spot and not miss much of a beat, if not at all, probably do a better job. And you could fill her spot with some training, but that next person's spot's gonna have a real hard time being filled. So by having somebody on that payroll for 90 days to learn the job, it makes it a little bit easier as a training time. And on top of it, we also right now have to rely on our existing staff, their good graces, to stay as contractors. At the end of the day, after 30, 35 years in public office, maybe you just want to leave. So this can let us have a trained process to bring somebody in. So, my former deputy, she gave me plenty of notice. We had a situation where it worked out for her and we had a vacant spot. But if you've given your boss notice, you can bring somebody in as a temporary. It makes it a lot easier to train that person. And you do it in the private sector. You'd never have a key person in the private sector if you could avoid it. Just walk out the door and go, here's the key to my office. Enjoy yourself.
any questions?
It's a great idea.
Chairman Hines?
Yeah, can you just take us through the process? The individual commissioner has to come to you for approval, I presume?
So we do, under state law, the Municipal Civil Service Commission is which is my office, is the one that has to go ahead and make those approvals. And because we have a process of how we fill spots here, you'd have to do the standard hiring request process. I mean, that's just an internal thing. Deb's the budget director have to say, hey, there's money, or there's not money. If there's not money, it's not gonna go forward. Then myself or one of my deputies would make an appropriate finding of the appropriateness of it. And that person would be on the payroll for between 90 and 180 days, most typically 90 days, so.
Okay, and the money would have to be in that department?
The money
already?
would have to be in the
You'd have to
department.
come to
They'd
us.
have to figure out where the money, I mean, the reality is, even in departments my size, which is relatively small, you can find money because you're always gonna have some turnover here or there. And, if I have a grade 7 vacancy and I know, some manager's leaving, I'm gonna set money aside and not fill it and use that money there.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Legislator Pagano?
So if somebody doesn't give you advance notice, then take a deep breath, as I'm asking.
Now I'm taking a deep breath for other reasons.
Okay, what happens?
If I was lying at you, you'd know it.
Here it goes.
Yes, sir.
Somebody leaves like 2 weeks,
Mhm.
right? Does this still fit in there?
It may fit into it in the following. So if somebody comes and says, look, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, and I say, gee, we'd love to have you stay. I don't want to be a contractor because I'm not going to do a 1099. I'm not going to get insurance and to get a personnel contract through 2 weeks. It's possible, but contracts aren't always done in 2 weeks. I could say to them, hey, would you stay on as a temporary? So you're a principal account clerk. Would you stay on as principal clerk temporary to train your successor? That's how it would help somebody like that.
All right, so it's 2 ways. It's one, the person coming in to take the position, and it's also the commissioner, or the high-ranking person gets to stay on as a contract employee.
Well, right now, we have a lot of high-ranking people, not a lot of commissioners. When you're a commissioner, you leave, you tend to leave. But we've got a fair number of very senior staff operating under contracts here, and they're operating under contracts for a reason. Their expertise is valuable. Their successor either is not there, or their successor is not trained. So it's probably not going to be a commissioner type situation, but it's more apt to be a senior member, whether it's a grade 10 or whether it's, a grade 25, who's been here for a good long time and has certain expertise.
And then once they retire, they don't get any more benefits from us. They become a contractor.
Well, if they retire, they're going to get their healthcare benefits through the retirement system. If they stayed on for 90 days and didn't retire, for example, I would believe
And they still became a contractor?
they wouldn't be a contractor. They would, if they're a contractor, they don't get benefits.
Good. Thank you.
Catherine?
How does this work as far as like the pay for these? Like, does the trainee come in at a lower rate while they're training?
Yep.
And then the person who's actually doing the training, do they keep their salary
So a
for that
trainee,
temporary?
good question. A trainee comes in at a grade lower, and I'm going to come back to you next month or the month after with a very comprehensive trainee program for the entire county. But I'll talk a lot more about trainees, but trainee comes back at 1 grade lower, or comes in at 1 grade lower. But the person, like the senior person who's walking out the door and staying on as a temporary, they'd be paid the same grade as they left at.
Okay. Thank you.
Would this apply to union positions also?
Yes.
Any position?
There's a finding that has to be made under section 64 of the civil service law, but it would apply to any position whose finding could be made under that.
So competitive and non-competitive.
Absolutely. And there's a delineation into, you can do 3 months regardless of whether you're even on a list. If you're on a list, and you want to do more than between 3 and 6 months, you've got to be on a list. And if you want to be renewed, you've got to be in the top 3 on the list. So there's a few different parameters.
So would this go past the 3 months?
You could do 3 months, or you could do 6 months, or you could do more than 6 months. And depending on how much time you're talking about here, and you got to have the money, of course, that it's where you fall on a civil service list or not. So again, up to 3 months, doesn't have to be a list at all. 3 to 6 months, you can be any place on the list if there's a list. There's not a lot of lists these days, as I'm sure you're aware. And then beyond 6 months, you have to be in the top 3 on the list. But that's all laid out in section 64, subdivision 2 of the civil service law.
Chairman, anyone else?
Just a quick question, devil's advocate, somebody gives notice, 3 months notice, whatever, and their life changes, something else changes, and they rescind that notice, then what happens?
So you've got a temporary appointee, they have no rights to a position.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Any other
You have
counties?
no rights after eight weeks, I should say. Sorry,
Thank you.
Any other counties doing this?
no idea. I have not seen anything.
You haven't got it? from anybody?
We're just trying to sit around and read civil service law live.
Good. Like being innovative.
Yeah, and like next month, I don't know about other legislators, but sometimes when I call departments, I find that there's empty positions, they're short-staffed, they're log-jammed with everything, it's hard to get to things. So part of the reason being that there are people out there that just don't meet the qualifications, correct?
That happens all the
So
time.
how do you somehow get around that to get someone the experience they need that works within the confines of law? So next month, we'll look forward to hearing about that. Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Anyone opposed? So carried. Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Okay, next up, number 4, Kelly Eskew, our county clerk, the busiest department in Orange County every day, but especially today.
Especially
Today.
New ID.
Okay.
Cars.
We have a request to create one confidential secretary to the county clerk, grade 15. Upon incumbent obtaining permanent status in the new position, the position of executive secretary and administrative assistant will be abolished. Legislative request number 098. Motion and a second. Okay. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Okay, so this is a critical position in my department, and currently I have an executive secretary, administrative assistant, and she's been performing all the duties of a confidential secretary without the benefits of that title. So we asked for a desk audit, they did a desk audit, and they recommended that it be upgraded to the grade 15. So that's why I'm here.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Hi.
So carried. Thanks, Kelly. Close the door. Okay, yeah. All right, and last up.
Not quite, not
Sorry,
quite.
the other page, sorry. Sorry about that. All right, number 5, Damian Brady, Administrator of the Office of Assigned Counsel. We have 2 requests here. The first one is a request to create one attorney for forensics and expert services, grade 25 position. Position is fully funded and approved by the Urel Herring Grant with New York State Office of Indigent Legal Service. The position would be abolished upon the loss of grant funding associated with the position. Legislative request number 119.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Brady, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the forensic attorney will oversee and support our panel attorneys and the use of experts, investigators, and mitigation services. We're also helping to manage our provider list of those services and monitoring case assignments. This is a designated civil service competitive class position and requires 10 years of service. And unlike we have right now the only designated civil service class attorney position in the county, which is our attorney ceiling and training position currently. And so this position will also be added to that. So it will be a competitive class position. The last time we filled a position like this. We did it as a training and experience exam, which was monitored by the Human Resources Department. So it's not simply an appointment such like the District Attorney's Office or the County Attorney's Office. We have over 70 attorneys on the panel. Last year, we closed over 3,000 cases, and with the forensic attorney position, one of the heaviest things that we have vis-a-vis, say, the Legal Aid Society, they have about 75% of the total cases, but we have over 45% of the violent felonies in terms of our panel. So they do have a lot of cases, but they dwarf us. Say they have like 85% of the misdemeanors and violations, and we have 15%. But when we get to the more complicated cases, our panel handles more of them. So that's the purpose of this position. And it's part of our grant plan that we've been building out. So we have an office of 6 now, and we're building out to an office of 9. So if you approve these 2 positions today, we'd be up to 8. And we recently expanded our space to accommodate that as well.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. O'Donnell.
How the grant goes for how long?
The current grant is through March of 2027, March 31st of 2027. This is our second Harrell Herring grant, so we'd be a total of 8 years of funding at the end of this. The Harrell Herring grant started as a result of the Harrell Herring settlement. So the Harrell Herring settlement essentially is a legal obligation of the state. Right now, they funded about $225 million a year. So the state settled one case with 5 counties, and then essentially built on that with this major settlement, which is what funds our office and all of the similar offices, including money for legal aid. So through 2027, but the joke that I have, the more of a joke is that I bet my career on the fact that the grant's not going to go away. So I don't believe it is. But to the extent that the grant does dissipate in March 2027, these positions would be eliminated as well, including my own.
So since the grant started and you got there, how much more has the state given us?
So the first grant was 5 years for approximately, let me see, so $23 million, $23.4 million, I believe, was the first 5-year grant, and this 3-year grant is $22.9 million, of which we have 11.7 over the 3-year period, so 3.9 per year, and the Legal Aid Society has roughly the other half, so they're about $3.8 million a year. Legal Aid has a little less than us because they have all the other grants that ILS provides, so they get about $880,000 in other ILS package grants that we don't have.
And we make up the difference for legal aid. Right?
Well,
County taxation?
County taxation, like these grants are non-supplanting grants. So essentially, whatever we paid before, we continue to pay. Anything beyond that, the state will pay. So that's why this office that was created, like my office was created, so everything gets paid for, the salaries of the employees, the benefits of the employees, the rent, the lights, the furniture, the computers. So because the county never had an office of assigned counsel previously, all we had was an administrator who got paid, roughly $60,000 a year, $70,000 a year. So max. So yeah, as the office expanded, so the state has to pay for that. Same thing with legal aid. That's why, with the exception, if you look at legal aid's budget over the last couple of years, it stayed fairly static. To the extent that it didn't, it was because they were adding family court positions and family court salary, because those things are not covered by the Harrell Herring grant. This is purely a criminal-based grant, as opposed to a family court grant, although the state is looking at expanding that. So New York State Office of Individual Services has requested, I think, $50 million this year in the state budget. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. They've been getting less than 20. So it would be beneficial to have additional help for family court, but again, that would essentially also help legal aid as well.
So then you'll have one position yet to fill?
Correct. I'll have one left, which I'm going to be bringing in the next several months, which is for the attorney for discovery and appellate support. So that's the last position. So currently we have 6. We'd be adding these 2, which is the chief assistant position, and the one you're considering now, which is the forensics attorney position. And then the next one and last one would be on our grant plan would be the discovery attorney. And like I said, we have the resources to support that in our budget. Plus we have the office space now, to the extent like we literally rented the space below us, and we are 90% done, thanks to DPW, IT, everybody, and my staff dealing with my craziness over.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. Okay, the second one is a request to create one chief assistant attorney, grade 27 position. Position is fully funded and approved by the Hurrell Herring Grant or the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Service. Position would be abolished upon the loss of grant funding associated with the position. Legislative request number 119.
So
Okay,
So, Mr. Chairman, again, this is a grade 27 position that is designated civil service competitive class requiring 10 years of experience. The chief assistant position, you'll also be responsible for working alongside the administrator and supervising and directing ultimately three OAC attorneys, which are for forensics, CLE and training, and discovery appellate, in addition to supporting our 70+ private attorneys, actually 72 now, and last year, 300 cases on assigned counsel. So this is supervisory position, which is necessary in order to manage the workload that we have, and it's being built out in compliance with our grants.
any questions?
Yeah, I'm looking at the salary range of 92.7 to 206. How do you determine the starting salary for this person?
The salary range right now, so the current grade 25 that we have in the office is 145,000, and I'm in grade 29 at 191. The salaries would be basically determined somewhere in that range, but we have enough money to fund within the range that I'm talking about, 145 to 191 for the grade 27. And the grade 25 would probably be less than 145 because that person currently occupies 25, is experienced and has been in the office for several years and has received several raises, very deserving. So we probably look at also the positions and our counterparts, district attorney, county attorney, because they have similar positions. The 25s are equivalent to senior assistant positions, the 27s to chief assistant positions. So I'd probably look at those positions and make evaluation there. But so the 27 would be higher than 145 and less than 191. So less
The
than
state gives you the money, but they don't care how much you pay the person.
I think
Sorry.
that's me calling my lifeline. The state does care. They want to see comparables. So when we pay people, they want to make sure that the positions are comparable to other positions that are existing in county government. So if say, for instance, our office was in Westchester County, maybe they would be making more money. If they were in upstate New York, they'd probably be making less. So they want to see comparable positions. And that's what I want. I want to be able to be competitive with, otherwise what happens is that, there's only so many competent lawyers in the area, and then people start moving based on salary and not necessarily based on whether they want to stay in the office or not. So that's what my goal would be.
So they've already given us the money for these positions.
Well, the way that Hurrell Herring works, we have two types of grants that fund us. The primary ones are from ILS. They are reimbursement grants. We have quarterly reimbursement reports. So we spend, and then every quarter we submit to ILS, and then they reimburse us generally within 90 days. So those are the reimbursement grants, and then DCJS grants are actually given to us in total, but that's a smaller part of our office and legal aid. So, but we are quarterly, so we have to generally have standards say that we're supposed to have our reimbursements within 45 days of the end of the quarter. So every quarter we finish and we submit the grants to the state. And they're making it easier and easier. We used to have to mail up like packages of like 300-400 pages of stuff. So literally it is everything from you do a combined claim with the Legal Aid Society and work with them to make sure your numbers are accurate. So everything goes up from the salary numbers to every receipt we have. So if there was a receipt for rent, that goes up. If there was a copy of a bill for Orange and Rockland, that goes up. So everything goes up every single quarter. So like I said, the claims are usually a couple hundred pages long, but we've got it down. Well, thanks to our fiscal manager, we have it down to a science, but we've got it under control.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just had a quick question.
Sure.
You said about DCJS. Is that for the voucher system? So like where the attorneys that essentially get paid out from DCJS providing a voucher?
Okay, so we're talking two different things. So Department of Criminal Justice Services is a state agency which essentially provides grant funding. In the past has been primarily for the police and district attorney side. Most recently, they started providing significant sums to the defense side. So last year, we appropriated through the legislature about $1.9 million actually $1.8 million to $900,000 grants, which we split the Legal Aid Society. What you're referring to is our electronic voucher entry system. And so we switched over in the last year from, well, we're 98% done with the paper, you think? Okay. So instead of receiving things on paper, we're digital end to end. So the lawyers submit bills digitally, they're approved digitally by the judicial, they do a review, they approve it, and then we receive it, review it, approve it, and then we send it digitally to the finance department who pays it. As most people are ACH. So that's something, well, that's Laura Morrison in our office did training. There are 36 justice courts. So I think that 36 justice courts and what about 64 judges roughly? So everybody got trained. 36 justice courts, and we have the county courts and family courts. So that was the project for the last year, which is kind of a good jumping off point for why these positions are necessary. We're straightening out one end of the house, and now we want to advance to the next end of the house, which is we want to dig harder into our case support. Now we know where our numbers are. So
Thank you for that.
absolutely.
Happy to hear you made those changes.
No.
I'm sure that was fairly challenging for a lot of attorneys and make a lot.
It was challenging for us, but some of the older attorneys much more challenging.
Joe, go ahead.
I just want to thank Mr. Brady for his fluid knowledge of this and working presentation. It's been great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jim?
Is this an appointed position?
Again, no, it's another civil service position. All the attorney positions, with the exception of my own, are civil service appointments. So essentially we put out an advertisement on, step on me if you like, if I get out of the way, but you put out an advertisement, and then if we have greater than 3 qualifying candidates, then we have the same process you would normally go through in the civil service context. Yeah, actually competitive class. 10 years of experience. So as opposed to a situation where some positions may say recommended 10 years experience, it's mandatory. So you have 10 years, you can't apply. So
It's a test.
it is in the last iteration of this, we did it as a training and experience exam. And Langdon, you want to?
That's how the state civil service tests attorneys. They require you to fill out all the details of their training experience, and then the state civil service will score them, and many will score 100 depending on how much information they put down. So you can have a lengthy list. So that's how the state tests attorneys.
So we make up the questions or the state?
The state does. The state makes up those
State
training
sends down the
experiences.
questions. Attorney fills out the questions. So you get 10 of them. They get sent up to the state. Will the state rank them, or they just score them and send
The
them back
state
up?
ranks training experience exams. So the reality is the more information you put down, the higher your score is generally going to be. We're shifting our correction officer testing the training experience as well. We've shifted actually.
Well, I don't have enough time for that.
Yeah.
So say 10, all right?
Mhm.
They send down rank 1 through 10,
Yeah, and then
and
exactly.
we can pick
You pick the top 3.
Pick the top 3.
any of the top 3.
Correct. Just like any other exam. And so, yeah, like I said, that's unusual for Orange County, but not unusual everywhere in terms of that. But you're the only department, and that was a determination that state civil service made when it approved the creation of the CLE and training position. And frankly, it's a benefit to our office because it makes it more independent. You know, we have people who you have to score a certain level, and you have to be in the top 3 in order to be approved.
So is it you or the county executive pick one of the top 3?
That's me.
So you hear from the county executive. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
So carried. Thank you, sir. Have a good
Thank you,
afternoon.
everyone. I appreciate it.
Okay, number 6, we have our Department of Emergency Services. I see Mr. Doss is here. Come on up, Mr. Doss. We have a request. This was, I think, public safety was brought before us last month, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think this is something different. So this is
So-
for additional people.
Additional ones here. Request to create 4 additional enforcement technicians, grade 9, step 2, part-time for the Orange County School Bus Arms Camera Enforcement Program. The salary is $26.51 hourly, or $26,195.14 annually for part-time. Salaries for these positions will come from fines collected in the program. Legislative request.
Second.
9-7. Motion is second. Okay, Deputy Commissioner Doss, the floor is yours. Seems like a lot of money coming in from this program.
That's scary.
There is some money coming. So we're looking to create 4 part-time positions within the school bus stop arm camera program. Program, as you know, was new just last year. So being a brand new program, we didn't know exactly what to expect. We thought we knew, but the response and the violations that are going out is substantial. That being said, we have 2 excellent enforcement technicians now that are on a part-time basis that can only work 19 hours per week total. With that being said, we have a very high integrity program here, and we've tasked them with some additional tasks in above what they're doing in review. Some of those things are doing some in-service training with the bus drivers because they're a critical part of this program. If they're not doing things proper out on the roads, it takes its effect on the violations, and we perhaps couldn't issue a violation to someone that should have had one. So we're taking that very seriously. We're getting calls and we're returning calls from vehicle owners that have gotten violation letters in the mail. They're tasked with returning those calls and making sure the customer satisfaction with this program remains high. We're also doing public education, whether it be, at the farmer's market, setting up a table, making sure our motorists out there are aware of the program and that these cameras are on buses and there's no more trying to race it and try to beat the light or the lights on a school bus, right? This is a very important thing. So as you're aware, the fine money would offset the county taxation that would be needed to pay for these positions. And we do anticipate a substantial increase in more violations going out because there's been huge buy-in with the school districts with this program. As you know, we launched with 4 school districts initially: Washingtonville, Newburgh, Middletown, and Kiers Joel. We have 6 more that have signed and are coming on board. They're either going through the county signature process at this time, or they are up and live, such as Goshen Central School District just went live technically last week. And there's a lot to do, as you can imagine, when they go live, right? All the installations have to happen in all of the buses. Huge undertaking when you're talking, some districts have as many as 200 plus school buses, and the training that has to happen with the school bus drivers, the initial training that they get before they go out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. I just had 2 quick questions. One, since we implemented it a year ago, do we have any data based on municipalities about whether we've seen an increase or a decrease in those specific locations where they started? And if we don't, are we going to be collecting that data? Which then leads me to my second question. Right now, we're assuming that we're going to have more, which is unextendable. We have new school districts that are going to come on, so we're going to obviously need it. But we anticipate that hopefully, now that more residents are going to be aware of the fact that the school buses have cameras on them, that we're hopefully in the near future, we'd hope, going to have reductions. How are we then going to fund the positions afterwards? So this is my 2-part question.
2 great questions, and we are thinking absolutely alike. So we have about 80% more buses coming online, just so that's out there. But one of the things we're doing with this program is being very proactive. We're not just sitting back and issuing violations. I do forward the data that you're speaking to the local municipalities, to the police departments that are involved in the program, the school districts. So say City of Middletown is enrolled in the I just forwarded literally Friday the latest data out to the police chief in the City of Middletown, so his officers can go out and know which posts are going to be most troublesome, that have shown to be most troublesome since September. And he could have a police car sit there and monitor the situation and do enforcement action in that regard as well. Plus, seeing that police car in that area generally helps. We do have some bus stops that are very problematic. I've also worked with the school districts themselves with that data, because a lot of times what can happen is the school district, they review those routes routinely. So if they know, hey, there's a stop right here that's troublesome, we've had 50 violations happen over the course of a couple months, maybe they need to do something, maybe they can't, but maybe they can do something to reroute that to at least where the children aren't crossing the street, or maybe there's a safer location a little further down, whatever the school district sees with that. So yes, we are using that data, and that is really the goal of this program, is not to issue violations. Our goal is to issue no violations, right? So we're being very proactive. I know of no other programs in the state doing that. And what the second part of that question was?
So how are we gonna fund it if we end up having those deductions? The aim is to, again, to
Right.
not have, right? So then how do we fund those programs like a year from now, or would they be abolished?
So we know the revenue is going to increase because the violations are going to increase here as we add school districts. You add 80% more buses, that revenue is going to increase. But to your point, hopefully with working the angles that we're working and being very proactive and high integrity with this program, we will see some of that start to cut back. That's why these are part-time positions. So if there would be no violation to approve, our part-time workers would ultimately work less hours.
Do you have any statistics on people who are fighting the system?
Yes, so far, well, in total, I have some statistics here I can provide. So in total, since September, our 2 technicians have reviewed over 25,000 potential violations, right? So they're reviewing potential violations. Doesn't mean everyone's a violation. They review it just as they would if they were a police officer out in the field. If they wouldn't have written the ticket, being in the police car, they're not going to issue the violation. So that being said, we've mailed out about over 15,000 violations in the mail. It's a lot. And to answer your question, we have about 1,000 so far that are looking to contest the violation. So it's about 10 to 15%. Generally want to contest those violations, and it's civil, so right. So I don't say want to plead not guilty or want to fight the ticket. They want to contest the violation.
How many of all those violations are repeat offenders?
We're attempting to get that data. We've been asked that a few times.
Yeah.
We know there are a number that at least received 2. And the way it works with the program, it's not the driver or necessarily even the owner, it goes by license plate. So if that particular vehicle has passed the stop school bus as part of the program, that's what's considered a repeat offender. So that being said, we're trying to get that data because we think it's very important that everybody's going to be a big part of this program with the enforcement. But in particular, the ones that are passing numerous school buses really need to be, make sure that they're, well, say, brought to justice. Should they be contesting these violations or the like? So, yeah, we're absolutely looking at that. Much like, you know how they're combating the tolls and things like that. People are into the millions of dollars in toll violations. We want to make sure that that's not going to happen here in Orange County.
You were talking about data. So do you share that data with the school districts also? Because I know I've gotten several complaints and everybody freaks out. You know, people are passing school buses, but I've gotten several complaints about Fulton Avenue in Middletown, which is a 4-lane road with a median. And I know recently the laws have changed, but you know, there's a school bus stop right on Fulton Avenue, which I don't agree with, but that's another point. And I've gotten calls where constituents are on the opposite side of the median, 3 lanes over. And I know the law recently changed, so you were talking about more awareness. Are you making people more aware that the laws recently changed about school buses? And so that the school district could change those school bus stops is my main concern.
So Amy Credence, the superintendent of schools in Middletown, I share the data, if not monthly, bi-monthly with her. So she has it, and I know she brings it back to the school board. And I hope she's bringing it to the transportation people as well. As far as education, we're on social media. We have 2 billboards up in the county as well to make sure motorists are aware. I have talked to the Rockland County Sheriff's Office. They're the ones that do their enforcement with their summonses on their end. I've talked to them, and they're about a full school year ahead of us, if you will. We just started full 4 districts in September. They've been county wide for 1 full school year before that. So they have a little more data, if you will, than us. What they're seeing over there with their violations is people are coming to a stop sooner and with the yellow lights rather than, you know, pushing the limit. So as that educational component happens, motorists are going to be less inclined to try to beat the stop. We have probably in about a week, we're going to put out another near miss video of students nearly getting hit. It's really alarming. I know on social media that gets a lot of feedback, which is good. I always think this program is good and bad, right? We're doing the right thing and holding people accountable for passing these stop school buses, but it's very disheartening to see so many motorists doing it. Even being in the law enforcement field for so long, it's shocking to me that the culture of the motorists is to speed up and try to beat the bus and beat the lights, which.
So do you guys have like pinpointed locations where you'd like to, you'd like to make recommendations to move or?
So
Are you
that's,
having discussions about
that's the
that?
data that I provided to the police department. So what I did, I provided the top 20 locations in the city of Middletown to the police chief, so they could look through that data and they love it because it tells them, number one, the spots, and it tells them the times. We have the times and everything, so they don't have to send an officer out for 4 hours and hope they get something. No, the problem is between these 20 minutes, go sit and then go to the next one if you can do that, rather than just sitting at one location. So it's really great for law enforcement as well.
Joe Lindley.
Thank you. Yeah, shocking. Program is shocking. The amount of near misses is shocking. With regard to the onboarding of new schools, I think most buses today have cameras. Okay. Is this something that the district pays for additional cameras, or is it something we supplement? Where does the funding come from for that?
Great question. So since the inception of this project, we partnered up with Bus Patrol. We have an agreement with them, and there is no cost to the county taxpayers for this program. All the equipment that goes on the buses, and it's quite expensive equipment, that goes on the outside of the bus and also on top of the bus, is all funded through that company. And the revenue that comes in from the fines is split. The contractor gets some, the county gets some. So we're generating revenue to pay for our employees, and we want to turn some of that money also into other school safety projects. And the other portion goes to the company that provides the technology, provides the back end, the system that our enforcement technicians goes into. It's called Alert Bus. That's all funded. Everything is funded through that contractor. And that was part of our agreement to make all that happen, that it wouldn't cost the county taxpayers anything.
So it's net, and the school district doesn't have to pay for it.
School district doesn't pay anything.
Amazing. Thank you for clarification. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a standardized timing of the length of time for the yellow light to like go out first? So that you don't end up like all of a sudden it's stopping like 3 seconds of light of yellow.
Great question. That's some of the things we see. So we want about at least 5 to 7 seconds of yellow. And the way the evidence is reviewed by our enforcement technicians, you might see if you go back and play some of the older videos that are online as part of our close. In the upper left corner, there's a yellow circle, if you will, and that's the enforcement technicians that know the system knows that for a fact the outside of the bus has its yellow lights on. When it switches to red, that yellow switches to red on the screen. So the enforcement technicians get to see that, and they get to time that. So we want to see approximately 5 to 7 seconds of yellow lights before it goes red. We're fully aware that there has been situations where a school bus driver can just literally go right to red and open the door, and then the cars are kind of stuck in between. And that's where our enforcement technicians really come into play. They look at that. That's one of the things that they look and review. Did that motorist really have time to stop? Because it's not fair sometimes, right? It's absolutely not fair. Or it could be a 55-mile-an-hour zone and they only had 2 seconds of yellow lights. And those are the things, some of the phone calls that we get is talking to the motorists or the vehicle owner, whoever happens to be calling about those type of things. So they're very fair with the program. I will say that, and that's what we want them to be. We don't want any of these violations to be haphazardly handed out, which may be happening in other counties, but we're making very sure it's not happening here.
Okay, so does the equipment have the capability of knowing how fast the car is approaching? Because if the car is speeding 45 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone down Carter Avenue, I mean.
We do not have any type of speed implementation. The
Maybe
enforcement
that's what they should
technician.
do next, because obviously if you're speeding past the school bus, 7 seconds isn't gonna allow you to maybe stop.
Right, well, then they'd be in
Because you're
violation
speeding.
anyway,
Right.
so it's looked at like that, but they do take their time in reviewing each of these violations, and they review as many as they typically do 4-hour shifts, they're reviewing as many as 200 in a shift, so it's a lot of review.
Because if a car is speeding, a close call isn't really a close call, it's you were speeding.
Right, Yeah, they couldn't slow down because they were
Right.
going so fast. But
Right.
that, again, that liability is on that. operator.
Technology might be coming next. Okay, thank you.
And that would be implemented too, with the police officer being out there monitoring those troublesome spots. That could also be of help.
Thank you.
Jim, go ahead.
So how many different bus companies supply school buses to our school districts?
Dozens, over a dozen.
Okay, so each one of them, to legislative Benton's point, has their own system, whether it's 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 0. So who controls that? The bus driver?
What I've seen, they don't go
Or
by
is it part of
seconds.
a school bus built-in system to begin with?
So what I've seen is they typically want, this is what I've heard from the school districts, 300 yards. Before they stop at the school bus stop, they want those yellow lights activated. So 300 yards. And that's what the school bus drivers key up on as they're approaching those stops.
But it's
It's not necessarily seconds per se.
So every
900
school
feet's pretty
district
far.
could be different. Or Jervis could have 250 yards, Goshen could have 200 yards.
Could be.
So are we gonna make recommendations?
That's part of our education. We can make recommendations, but we can't force the school district or the buses
I
to.
get that, but once we get sufficient data, and you can show that we're all in agreement with here to save lives, all right? So once we have sufficient data, you'll be able to show that all these different school bus companies have different times on the yellow lights.
Right.
So we can recommend what is the ideal time. We can also recommend what is the ideal yardage. Okay, I don't think you're ever gonna see the speed go on top of that, but we can certainly make very valid recommendations with our data. So I would
Right.
hope that once you have a year's worth of data, you call all the school districts in, say, listen, this is what we think is the best for the safety of our children, and each school bus company should be made to comply with those, and you can send people out to test
Right.
what they're doing, right, and then make further recommendations. Separate subject, right, that was mostly safety. Now, the vendor, right, sends you the video, right, and we have our 2 people have to look through the video and make a decision whether it's valid or not valid.
Right.
And then these summonses then get mailed out by us or the vendor.
The vendor.
So we then send something back to the vendor. 100 and 150 you sent to us on Tuesday is valid. You can
Correct.
Send out your mail.
We're that neutral party in between it.
So how does the violator get our phone number?
Our website.
So
There, so.
how did we get stuck answering those?
Well,
calls?
So on the notice of violation, when a vehicle owner receives that, there is a number on the back of the summons, and it's a number for bus patrol. We had actually tested that line because we got some complaints. This is how involved we are. That nobody was answering, it was taking too long. We worked with them. It's down to less than 2 minutes for someone to answer a live person onto that phone to help resolve those types of issues. So I don't mean to mislead you. We don't get tons of complaints or people inquiring, but when we do, that could be, a 10, 15-minute conversation with somebody, as you could imagine. So we don't get tons of those calls, but we do also advertise, we do make notification to the public on the county website, on the emergency services. I have a tab for the school bus safety program, which talks about the laws and the program and as part of education for the community.
And so when is this contract up for renewal?
About 5 years.
5 years, all right. So we're stuck answering these things for 5 years?
Like I said, I don't think it's a heavy lift. We're doing it. And again, these are primarily county residents that are calling. We don't have a problem talking to them. It hasn't been overwhelming, but it can take, 15 minutes from that shift to that part-time person reviewing those summonses. So it does cut in at some level.
Oh, yeah.
But again, if anybody calls emergency services, we're going to talk to them. So we certainly don't object to that.
All right. Can you supply us with a copy of
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman.
Go ahead, then, yeah.
I just wanted to touch back on the yellow light distance. So that's, I mean, it's up to the discretion of the driver when they turn the yellow lights on. Is that my understanding?
Of the bus driver. That's my understanding
You
is
said 300 yards.
300 yards
So
is
3 foot
what I've
posts.
heard before.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
That's a long way.
yeah, in the city of Middletown, you would drive with your lights on, your yellow lights on constantly. And maybe in your district, you know, where houses are spread out apart, it works, but
But even still, that's 8.5 telephone poles.
yeah, it's a far distance.
Long distance.
That's long. So at what point do they determine when to send a ticket? Because I know it's an out-of-state vendor, I saw the tickets, they provide pictures of the cars and stuff like that, but my concern is more if it's being used as a revenue stream than actual enforcement. You know, like I said, you know, I've gotten some phone calls on this and I've seen some people would never, some people I personally know would never pass a school bus, but if you're on a road like 211 and the school bus is 3 lanes away from you, and some drivers have been, you know, they're not up to date on the laws like, you know, most of us are. They're not lawyers or average Joes. And they're like, I got this school bus ticket, how's this possible? So my concern is, you know, are you educating the drivers too? Like, hey, put your lights on with sufficient amount of time for other oncoming drivers. And again, if you're driving on a road that's 45 miles an hour, like you said, it's one thing if you're on a 30-mile-an-hour road, but if you're on a 45-mile-an-hour road and the bus stops and you're 2 car lanes away from that bus and the yellow lights come on.
And that's why we look for that 5 to 7 seconds. That seems to be the sweet spot for us
Okay.
as far as reviewing that
So
video.
if they have a dispute. they
So
just-
even a vehicle traveling 45, you could stop in
How's
that
the
time frame.
dispute process working? If someone called you to dispute, like, hey, I didn't pass this bus or the lights
Well,
weren't on.
We don't adjudicate anything over the phone, so if they wanted to go contest that violation, it's all explained on there. They fill out the back and they would mail it in, and then they would be notified back of that their notice of violation to contest was received. And they'll have a court date in the future to go before a local court that hears traffic offenses.
You didn't turn it over?
What? What are you talking about? No.
Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, my understanding is that the camera does not start until they actually bring the stop sign out, and that's what engages it. So
No.
that's not the way it works for us, it goes
No.
on when it's yellow?
No, so the camera's recording, and what'll happen is, once those yellow lights are activated, even before, the camera's always recording ultimately. What happens is, they'll edit the post down to, you know, as the yellow lights go on, you get the whole sequence of the buildup. You know, sometimes things are happening, you know, a car could be pulling out of a parking spot or whatever. You get to see everything surrounding it. And it continues through the red, and you'll even continue. Some cars aren't going through the reds for 5 seconds even. So we get to see the buildup and that. So yeah, it's important to see how long the yellow lights were on and what's happening.
Well, that's why I mean, like originally when they had started this, a couple of years back and stuff, the cameras didn't actually start activated until they put the arm out where it said stop. Not for us, but
Yeah,
I'm saying
might have been another
originally,
vendor.
so that the yellow really didn't have anything to do, where the training was more that once you stopped at a bus stop, the drivers would have to sit with the yellow lights on for that 10 seconds. And then once they sent the arm out with the stop, that would be when the camera would start, which would show the violation. So you wouldn't have so much time where you're going over all these questionables because you're not sure if it's yellow or if it's red.
Right.
So, you know, it kind of like that kind of defeats a lot of the work that we're going through if it was clear that, you know, it was activated for, you know, or that particular camera was activated for when they actually put the stop arm out.
Right.
So you wouldn't have to worry about whether it's 300 yards or anything else, because the bus would have to stop, sit, make sure that no one's coming, which most of the bus drivers do, and then when they activated the arm, that would activate the cameras.
Right. But that's not how our system.
Well, I'm understanding that now, but for a lot of others, that's how they do it, so you wouldn't run into where anything's questionable, because if it shows up on the camera, you know that they've gone through the red.
Right. I will say it is very helpful to see the buildup, though. We've seen, there's a lot of things that are happening sometimes. Sometimes city of Middletown, it's bumper to bumper traffic, you're stopped in traffic on the road, car in front of you, car behind you, and the bus pulls up next to you and had their yellow lights on, hits the red lights. Now you're like directly next to the bus. So those, and then now traffic is clearing in front of you. Do you go? Do you sit? Like those are the calls that
Yeah.
our enforcement technicians are making, but they have to know that buildup to be able to do that. And I think it's very important to have that, those preceding, 10 seconds to know that.
Joe and then Jim.
Maybe not a final question, it's a huge topic. Jimmy, go ahead. I just lost my train of thought on it. It's a huge topic.
So this is the first I'm hearing that the cameras are constant.
I believe they're constantly running this way because it's sometimes you need to know when.
I get it, I can't believe they're getting away with that, but that's fine. So is there anything in our contract that requires them to keep their film X number of time?
Yes, there is. So, yeah, I'd have to refer back to the contract, but there is and then if someone wants to contest the summons, they have to hold the video and those kind of things.
But I'm talking about just
You put
every,
that video that I'm talking about in particular, I'll say it's, when I say it's always running, that's getting written over, my understanding, because there's no need for that. It's only when there is a violation that video is condensed to that stop. It's not, we don't get like 8 hours of video.
we don't, but I'd like to know what the company does.
Yeah, I mean, there would be too many hours of video for them to review. The system lets them know when the cameras pick up a car going through
I
with the
get
red
that,
lights.
I get that, so I just think I would like to have a clear understanding of what exactly they do.
Sure.
Right, just if the camera goes on when the engine gets started, and the camera goes off when the bus gets time to go off, and it's running the whole time. Just if you can just get some.
Sure. And I'll open the invitation too. Anybody could stop by emergency services. I'll show you the whole system and how it works.
Field trip.
There's nothing, there's full
Yay.
transparency here. There's nothing to hide.
I understand that, I'm more interested in the
From
company.
there to the coroner's office.
That's your license plate number. Go ahead.
So just to clarify for those of us who may or may not know or think we know and don't know, school bus lights are red. No matter what lane you're in, you stop.
Right.
Yes.
Even with a concrete
Even-
4-foot divider in between, you have to stop.
Right, divided
Thank you.
highway. There's that middle lane, like in, say, New Windsor by Price Chopper.
The turning lane, fast lane.
It's all, you have to stop. Student safety is paramount.
Thank
And stopping for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, even 20 seconds, whatever it is, to make sure those kids are safe, it's worth it. I mean,
You see
nobody-
those near miss videos and there's no denying it. It's just scary. It's horrible.
It is. We have some others to come out on this video in the future, so.
He answered my question, thank you.
Quick question. These positions are looking for like retired law enforcement? They have to have a law enforcement background or?
So myself and Commissioner Strigliano feel that that's extremely important
Okay.
as they review the evidence and they potentially have to testify in the future. But technically, no, the specifications for that position is 60 college credits or high school diploma and 5 years law enforcement.
Right. And in your opinion, why aren't all schools plugged into this?
I think they're going to be. I
Okay.
think it's just taking some
Yeah,
time
take
to
some
get
time.
them,
Okay.
to get them on. We have 4 others on deck too, so
Who do
we'll
you
be up
have?
to 10 for sure that have already signed.
Yeah.
And we have another 4 we're working through the process, so.
Okay. Which 4 are you working through? Just kind of curious. Do you know off the top of your head?
Cornwall, I believe it's gonna be on their school board agenda
Okay.
this month, and we're working closely with Pine Bush, Chester, and Port Jervis.
Okay.
The other districts that have signed, Valley Central, Greenwood Lake, Monroe Woodbury loans 120 buses, Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery, Warwick, and Goshen.
That's a great program. Good.
So if those.
Middletown was the
Middletown was
initial
the first 4.
Yeah, Newburgh.
So
And that's one of the
if
initial-
those cameras are working 24/7 up at Pine Ridge, they might get some of them UFOs.
They might-
More Martians.
they might-
They'll definitely get some people dressed like it.
Oh.
Don't let them
Okay.
take you, Jimmy.
All right, we have another meeting coming up. Any further questions or comments? Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Dawes. Have a great afternoon. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.